Good morning, and thank you for joining us on this live stream at SAG-AFTRA on YouTube. To stay informed about all of our live stream and video events, we invite you to subscribe to this channel. You can do it right now. We are joined today by ASL interpreters Hope and Nicole, who will be visible on screen throughout. They will also be trading off throughout the presentation. Today, the President's Task Force on Education, Outreach, and Engagement live stream is pleased to bring you Social Media for Performers, Beyond the Basics. If you have questions that you'd like to direct to today's guest, please email pteoe@sagaftra.org. That's pteoe@sagaftra.org. As a reminder, today's program is being recorded and you can watch the replay right here on SAG-AFTRA's YouTube channel. Now, please welcome today's host, SAG-AFTRA President Gabrielle Carteris.
Thank you, Pamela. Thank you. Hello, everybody. Welcome. I hope that you are all doing well and staying safe during this pandemic. My best to all of you. Well, we're here again. Yay. With what I hope will be a valuable presentation to help you in your careers, maybe even in your personal lives. Today's webinar is actually a follow-up discussion to our social media basics presentation that we brought to you several weeks ago. It was a big success. We know that people wanted to hear more, and this webinar is designed as a part 2 higher level follow-up for performers who are actually already comfortable with the basics of social media and who are looking to exponentially grow their audience, monetize their followings with brands, and apply advanced strategies and tactics. So our presentation is going to cover optimizing profiles and content for various platforms algorithm, submission to paid partnerships with brands, navigating SAG-AFTRA contracts in the digital space, building influence in the most time-efficient and effective way, utilizing your presence for more opportunities, and the future of social media. Okay, that was a mouthful, but it's all important stuff. So that's a lot to learn, but we have a great teacher with us. Before we begin, though, I do want to welcome our SAG-AFTRA Executive Vice President, Rebecca Damon, who's here with us today. Hi, Rebecca. What we're going to be doing is I have to go to another meeting. Rebecca will be following up after the webinar with the questions and closing out this, this session. Before we begin, also, I want to welcome Ryan Walker. Ryan Walker is not only a social media expert, but a member of SAG-AFTRA's National Next Gen Performer and Communications Committee. We're very grateful for his work. For those of you who may not be familiar with Next Gen Performers, or should I say we call them NGP, it's actually a subcommittee of SAG-AFTRA's MOVE, which is Members Organizing Volunteer Efforts. It's something that I hope those of you who are younger and want to be able to be involved, it's a great group to work with. NGP actually works to develop, serve, and connect the emerging generation of our union's members to take control of their careers, to get involved, to get active through social media, social network, meetups, community outreach, special events, so much more. Actually, and as the pandemic, hopefully things start to change, you'll be able to do those social meetups and community outreaches with them because they do really great work. Publicized as a proactive force in entertainment, Ryan Walker is the founder and CEO of a social media firm he created while living in the back of a boat in Marina del Rey, where all great things happen. He ultimately led his company to becoming one of the nation's leading social media education and management firms, with notable clients including Apple, Final Cut Pro X, Apogee, and Adobe in support of Adobe Video World virtual conference. Ryan educates globally in social media, brand development, and digital growth for creators, as well as having done over 40 brand partnerships on his personal Instagram account. Ryan offers actually a wealth of experience in today's topic, so I believe you're going to really enjoy listening and learning from him. So I think that it's time for us to move ahead. Without further ado, Ryan, thank you for being here.
Gabrielle, thank you so much. Such a lovely introduction. I appreciate it. I want to start by giving a huge thank you to SAG-AFTRA. Such a pleasure to be here. It is, always an honor to educate alongside such incredible professionals and to bring this education to all of you. So thank you all for jumping on and joining us on this lovely Thursday. So there's a lot for us to cover. As Gabrielle mentioned, there's a huge agenda for today, so I'm going to go as fast as I can. Luckily, I've been told I talk very fast, and we are recording if you need to watch it twice. This is meant to be an advanced session. So if you haven't watched the part 2, as Gabrielle had mentioned, or part 1, excuse me, if you haven't seen the part 1, I would highly recommend you do so, and then maybe rewatch this one afterward. It was with Ben Whitehair, who's an incredible educator as well, and really goes over the basics. Today, we're going to talk about how do you take those foundations, the basics that you have, and turn it into an influential and leverageable aspect of your career, and covering all of those different topics as far as monetization, algorithmic optimization, taking things to the next level with content. So we're going to hit all of that in stride here today. So wonderful. We are going to take a couple of breaks throughout this just to make sure we are transitioning the ASL interpreters. So I'm going to let you know when that's happening. We also got some incredible questions from all of you prior to this today. So we have a couple of those at the end that we're going to make sure we address. So thank you all for your thoughts and questions prior to the session. So without further ado, we will jump right in. Let's take a look. Perfect. All right, so not too much about myself, but just to give you a little bit of background on who I am and how I got here. So as Gabrielle mentioned, I founded TSMA, which is a social media firm here in Los Angeles, from the back of a boat in Marina del Rey. So that's not this session here today, but I do some sessions on how anything is possible. And if you put your mind to something, you can build, whatever you dream of. But that's another time. So I built TSMA basically from the ground up to work with amazing partners and clients like Apple. We do their Final Cut Pro Summit events and social media. We've educated with Apple around the world. Casting networks, OWC, Ceramonic, Adobe, Television Academy. So we've had the pleasure of working with some really amazing companies and people. So a lot of this experience comes from that background, the higher level strategies that go into a multinational business. And the other half of today is coming from my background in casting and doing partnerships myself. So I actually started in casting with some incredible casting directors. We cast many of the seasons of Narcos. We cast Coco for Pixar, East Los High for Hulu. So seeing what was happening behind the scenes in the room is actually what started all of this to begin with. The beginning of my journey was hearing exec producers, network studios, and directors ask for people's social media handles after they left the room. So that was really impactful to my journey, especially just being in the room as a reader, camera operator, whatever it was I was doing. I noticed that was becoming a big part of the industry. This is maybe 10 years ago. This is back right after Instagram was a filter app and then became a social network and then was purchased by Facebook. We'll get into that in a minute. But at the time, it wasn't something that I think performers even realized was a part of your marketing strategy. Yet the people that were making some of the financial decisions were looking at it. And I'll get into a little bit of why they're doing so. Again, that's part 1. We talk more about the industry shift. This is about some higher level applications, but that was my background that got me into all of this. And as noted, I've done over 40 partnerships with various companies around the world, Jamba Juice, National Geographic, a lot of different resorts and hotels. So I do a lot of traveling partnerships. So I'm going to get into that, and that's going to be the bulk of the end of this presentation here today, is how did I navigate those? How did I procure that work, either for myself or go through my agency to do so? Of course, SAG-AFTRA, and always anytime you're on video and doing any kind of commercial, the different various contracts that you can either push for, fight for, or put in place for yourself. So we'll get into all of that today. I've had the pleasure of educating around the world with many great groups on social media, and I'm an escape room addict. So for my fellow escape room addicts that are in quarantine currently, I feel you. I've done a couple of dozen escape rooms here in LA and have some great recommendations if you want to reach out afterward. So wonderful. I just want to do a little bit of recap on the next slide of part 1. Maybe about 5 minutes or less, just about what we covered to make sure we're all up to the same page here today so you can really pick up at full speed. So part one is mentioned by Ben, as you can see in the grid here, and we have the pleasure of working together at the company I mentioned. So part one was brand quality consistency. That is the foundation of posting on the platform. You're posting quality content consistently within your brand every 2 to 4 days as formal pieces of content, picking your brand points, what are you posting about, diversifying your content, making sure it looks aesthetically pleasing and cohesive. So all of those things were covered. Optimizing your profile. We talked about things like, or Ben talked about, things like your handle. So making sure your handle is searchable, that you have I am, it's, life of, adventures of, the official, the real, some kind of approachable and easy to find handle. And then optimizations for your bio, the link in the bio, things like that. So all of that was covered previously. So we're going to move on from there. Engaging with a potential fan base, commenting, liking content, actively going out and engaging with other people on the platform. We talked about, Ben mentioned lead, which is basically his outreach, basically the foundation of his education in outreaching to the industry, making relationships, leading with value on social media, creating content with others, photo shoots, video shoots, still imagery, graphic design. And then we touched a little bit on 10,000 followers for new opportunities. So I'm really going to dive into that today. What is that threshold? How do you value yourself as an artist, but also on social media, your following, verification, all of those things. But that is actually where we ended off last time, is the end of the rainbow. There's new opportunities that come once you've built this presence. So that's where we're going to pick up today. So with that, I have one final bit of recap on the next slide is the social media demographics. So Ben showed this in his presentation and mainly was talking about where to invest your time as an artist. There are so many different platforms out there right now and so many different ways you can put energy into the social media space. The general family tree here, and I'm just going to recap this, is that Facebook owns Instagram. They bought Instagram for almost $1 billion. Instagram was actually meant to be a more visual, algorithmically driven medium for content creators to build an influence, whereas Facebook is digital networking. So let me just make that distinction again. Facebook, digital networking, Instagram, digital marketing. Very distinct, very separate platforms. That's why Facebook bought Instagram. So we got a few questions prior to this today about building a following on Facebook. And I would advise that that's actually ill-advised, because Facebook is meant really to build that relationship with your family, friends, people you've worked with before, reconnect with people you haven't seen in a while. That's what it's actually foundationally built for. Now, there are fan pages on Facebook that you can continue to generate and post content on, build up a fan page on Facebook. It's an older age demographic, so that's something that is a benefit to Facebook, but there really isn't much leverageability or monetization opportunities that come through Facebook and building a following on Facebook. So today we're not going to talk about that as much. I think there were a few questions on Facebook optimization, so we will get into those. But really it's about Facebook's platform, Instagram, that we're going to be looking at primarily here today. And I'll get into why. It's a sort of a race for monopoly in a sense between these various different platforms. We got a lot of great questions on YouTube. YouTube is a saturated market. There is so much content on YouTube right now. It's long form video content. There are billions of users, but there's billions of hours of content that are currently uploaded on the platform. Very hard to work with any sort of algorithm they have for optimizing content using meta tags and search engine tools to get your content in front of people. As a performer, it probably means that you have to script, shoot, and create your own content that is topical, relevant, and has such a great hook that at least a couple thousand people will see it. There was a lot of frustration that I had seen in the questions prior to this about trying to build a following on YouTube. It's really hard to do. It also isn't the best place to monetize through ad revenue or through brand partnerships, unless you already have an audience there. If you already have an audience there, I'm gonna give you my Instagram here at the end to make sure that you have my contact and we can talk about YouTube. But again, we're gonna primarily focus on Instagram. So I think Ben said this joke, but it's a joke that we like to have here at the office is Twitter is a great place for news, politics, and celebrities to apologize. It is really it is not a visual medium. It is a text medium. Basically, you have a set number of characters, as you know, that you can use on the platform. And just as a visual artist, as a performer, as someone who's on stage, who's dancing, modeling, singing, acting, dancing, writing, directing, producing, you name it, Instagram is going to cover all of those bases. So we'll get into that as well. Snapchat, TikTok, and Vine, Instagram Reels, some of the short form video content we are definitely going to touch on today because of the virality of that content, the shift in the marketplace right now towards short form viral content, Quibi aside, but really those platforms specifically have gotten a lot of traction. It is definitely something to note, but there is also some nuance that comes to being a performer and building an audience on Snapchat, TikTok, or Instagram Reels. If you're not familiar with Reels, we will definitely get into that today. Vine, 0 users. Unfortunately, Vine fell apart. The reason that we have Vine on the slide is so that we can note what potentially could be happening to TikTok, for example. I will just lightly touch on TikTok. They had a really tough month. If you've been following the trades, basically our president put a hit on TikTok because they are a Chinese-owned business. Now, currently, there is now if you're watching this months from now, this will have settled. I don't have a great prediction on this. Well, not an optimistic one anyway. There is currently a bidding war going on right now between Microsoft, Oracle, I think Walmart is involved to purchase TikTok and make it a US-based, US-owned company, which would eliminate any of the privacy issues that are causing problems for TikTok in India, in China, and in many other countries. India actually banned TikTok as of this recording today. So TikTok had a huge, massive hit that is millions, hundreds of millions of their downloads came from India. So TikTok is in hot water right now. And Instagram created Instagram Reels immediately, implemented it immediately, and actively put it into the market at the same time that TikTok started having issues. This is a ruthless family tree. These are different companies. We have to remember they're for-profit businesses that are competing with each other for market share constantly. So that is relevant to this entire conversation here today, because what we're doing as artists is leveraging the momentum, algorithm, the data that these different platforms have, and using it for your career, for more success for yourself, whether that's for more auditions, monetization, creating a revenue stream, a higher booking ratio, potentially commercials, print jobs. There's a ton that can come through social media. But what we're really doing is looking at this overall landscape and saying, how can I, as an artist, best capitalize on the platform that makes the most sense from a cost and time investment standpoint, so that we can really look at those key performance indicators of success for your career and hyper focus. So today we're going to talk about Instagram. So we can jump into the next slide here, and it's just a little bit of reiteration on where this industry is going. And there's a reason there's this many people on. Currently social media is just a massive beast. I mean, it goes without saying. The shift in the actual financial side of our industry is pretty drastic and incredible as well. So the billions of dollars that are going from 2014 to 2020 into digital video is incredible. Now, SAG-AFTRA has done an awesome job at making sure we have contracts in place that protect performers as this digital shift is happening. I don't know about you, there's been a lot of commercial movement lately. I think it's, the holidays coming up and shooting a lot of commercials, during this time, but many, if not most of them, have at least something to do with new media, digital, some kind of distribution through social media, which is very interesting. It's something to note. Every time you see that, make a note of it and how often you see it, because that financial shift in the industry is drastic. And it's projected to be much higher than 16 billion here for the digital video ad boom. And the majority of Facebook and Instagram's revenue is paid ads. By over 90% is paid ads. Now, brands are paying for advertisements to capitalize on the market, to get your attention as a consumer. But this today is about transitioning your mindset from a consumer of content to a creator of content that is being consumed by others. That's really what being an influencer is. Now, influencer has a bad rep, but basically the term has a bad rep. What it really means is you're influencing the purchasing decisions of a consumer base, of a demographic of potential consumers for a brand or for a business or for a TV show or for a film, if you can influence their decisions and you can influence their purchasing decisions, you can influence their viewership, that actually makes a large influence on Nielsen ratings. It makes a large influence on the success of a series, on SVOD platforms, and increasing their revenue month over month. All of that is direct result of having a bigger presence. Now, before we get too ahead of ourselves, Ben said this as well, we strongly believe talent comes first. Talent is the most important thing in this industry. Today is not about talent. I wouldn't dare try to teach all of you how to act. But today is about letting you know that talent, I hope, and I won't be in the entertainment industry anymore if talent doesn't come first, because I believe in the storytelling. I believe that quality work supersedes all. This is just about marketing. How do you then have that quality service, that quality product, and then market it effectively in an efficient way? So I would like to now jump into some of those optimizations, and we'll start with my profile as an example. So on the next slide, I'm just going to highlight a couple of things that you may or may not know about, basically about optimizing your page here. So if we can go to the next slide, beautiful, thank you. I've underlined and circled a couple of things. Now, Ben mentioned profile image. You talked about your headshot compared to a commercial shot, lifestyle print shot. We're not going to hit that too much here today, but that really does make a big difference. That's like your calling card. That is the equivalent of your headshot. So that makes a huge difference. Clean, clear, simple background will help immensely with retention and your overall ability to generate new traffic to the profile. So this is my page a while back, and I made some critical errors here. Now, a big goal of this today is to walk you through the errors that I had made so that you don't make the same mistakes and you can expedite your process with social media without learning the hard way. So the first thing is the link in the bio, the actual link, the website that shows up in your bio is the most prime real estate on your profile. When you do a brand partnership or collaboration, most likely they're going to want you to change that link to some kind of trackable bit.ly link or something that would basically drive traffic to their product or drive traffic to the show that you're on or to the press that Netflix recently received. Or, you know, we work with Apple a lot, as mentioned. Apple TV, you know, they will have the various artists, the various actors on the shows have a social media campaign behind the release of the shows. We worked on a lot of the recent projects that came out with Apple TV, and almost all of them had a conversion component on Instagram, attempting to drive as much traffic as possible to these various different series because it is a digital subscription platform and that's the language that they speak. So having the link actually in your bio, the way it's written here, doesn't work. You can't actually click that, and people aren't going to go back and forth between Instagram and Explorer or Safari, Instagram, Safari, Instagram, the browser to put in that URL. It's just not going to happen. So the link in the bio should actually be the website in your bio. Just a quick note on that. Final note on this slide, I linked to my Twitter. Now, I just want to give you an example through a story of why that is algorithmically a downside or an algorithmic deficit to your profile, how it could actually hurt your presence overall and make it so it's harder for you to generate a new audience. Instagram is directly competitive with Twitter. There's no doubting that. So if I were to go into IHOP, for example, and I sit at IHOP and I have my breakfast and I say, you know what? I want to go to Denny's. And I stand on the table and I say, hey, everyone who's in IHOP, come follow me to Denny's. They have really great breakfast too. Actually, different breakfast than IHOP. I will probably get kicked out of IHOP. It's just the way businesses work. You're not going to be able to promote another business. That's why you can't bring food from another business into a restaurant, because it's not their food and they're paying for that space. Consider it the same way in social media platforms. Instagram isn't happy with people who say, go follow me on Twitter, because what you're doing is actually driving traffic away from Instagram and sending it to Twitter, which can make a huge problem for them being able to retain people on the platform. So linking to your Twitter on Instagram can actually hurt you algorithmically. Now, these are the secrets of the trade. I understand this is on YouTube, so hopefully I don't get a call from Instagram. But these are really the things that you will never see in their API. You will never see in their public like changes for Instagram or things that they're taking into consideration for the algorithm. These are just based on our experiences and managing hundreds of accounts. People who are just beginning all the way to huge businesses, it makes a big difference. So I would advise don't link to other platforms. The link in the bio every once in a while can be a YouTube video, can be a tweet that you had, most likely it'd be a YouTube video. I haven't seen that make a huge difference, but if it's in your bio itself, it can hurt with optimization, or it can help with the algorithmic optimization, making sure you show up on discover pages and on hashtags. It can also hurt with verification, which we're going to talk about at the end. So just something to note there. So we can go to the next slide a little bit later in my journey. Now we're going to talk a bit here about the changes. You can see how drastic Instagram has changed since that last slide there. They added highlights. I personally graphic design all of my highlights. Our team graphic designs all of our clients' highlights. So that's something that I would also advise to match the aesthetic and cohesive structure of your profile. The more beautiful and pleasing your profile is to the eye, the more it subconsciously translates to casting and otherwise that you have an understanding of your marketing. And chances are, if you have great content, you're posting consistently, you have graphically designed highlights, your profile looks beautiful, you have an optimized and well-written content and copy, you can probably show up to set on time, you can probably wear the right wardrobe, you can probably get off book with your lines, because it just shows a level of professionalism, and you know, it shows also someone that they might know, like, and trust. And Instagram's great for that. So if it's not always about building a huge following, it's also about representing the quality of the work you do as an artist through the quality of the work you do in your marketing. Those two are hand in hand. That's really all I wanted to show here. IMDb link and otherwise, Ben covered that last time. This is really just about the visual changes in Instagram. And in the next slide, we can talk about some of the actual logistical changes that have happened recently. So again, a little bit further down my journey here, you can see the highlights have changed color. The graphics have changed here to match the new aesthetic on my profile. The content has remained relatively the same. There's this balance between medium shots, you know, establishing shots, close-ups, topical content to what's going on in the world right now, you know, filler content. There's a diversification, which most of you know, to post diverse pieces of content on Instagram. But one thing that I circled here that you'll notice different is IGTV. So that's a newer part of the platform. It's not the newest by far, but it is a newer part of the platform. If you are not already using IGTV, I highly, highly recommend you use IGTV. IGTV is long form video content. It is a separate part of the platform. There's actually a separate app for IGTV. If you haven't downloaded that app, I would suggest highly you go and download that right now. On the App Store, it's called Instagram IGTV. You can actually download that and post to your Instagram feed from the separate IGTV app. It's just optimized to be able to post long form video content. It's easier to do so. We're going to get into IGTV a little bit later with some of the different aspect ratios and cropping and whatnot and technical sides of it. But IGTV is a new part of the platform that Instagram is still putting a lot of energy behind and very much so rivals the engagement on YouTube. So possibly instead of posting only on YouTube, I would consider also posting on your IGTV. Great place for your reel, great place for long form video, great place for a skit or a sketch that you've created, of course, remember SAG-AFTRA contracts, but all of that can go on IGTV. So this was taken right before Instagram or Facebook Shops and Instagram Reels. So we're gonna hit that later. I do wanna take just a minute to allow the interpreter to switch over. We're right about the time where we wanna do that before we jump into some of the specifics and the different aspect ratios for the various different aspects of Instagram as an influencer or creator. So we'll just give them just a minute. Excellent. So let's jump into stories. So stories are short form, casual, impromptu pieces of content. If you're not already using stories, most of you are, being an advanced class, I would recommend you definitely start today. Having one story up at any given time makes a large difference with audience retention, engagement with your audience. It doesn't have to be super high resolution, incredibly, well-crafted content. It can be very much so candid. It can be a screenshot of this presentation today with some text layered over it saying learning social media from SAG-AFTRA, tag SAG-AFTRA, of course. That alone is a great story. It is basically a window or insight into what you're doing on a daily basis. Now, for some of you, you may be feeling, this kind of turns your stomach a little bit. Why does anyone want to see what I'm doing on a daily basis? Why am I even doing social media? It feels a little bit inorganic, or it feels like it's against the grain for me as an artist. I totally hear you. I will tell you, I couldn't stand social media when I started. I forced myself to learn how to do it. And then I fell in love with the content creation component and the ability to get content out there and distribute it myself. That was super and very much so exciting for me. Now I use it as an opportunity to work with brands that I love, to connect with my relationships and friends, to do cross-marketing campaigns, and of course, to say it changed my life is a ridiculous understatement. So social media has been a really good time investment for me, to say the least. But for most of you, it might feel like, I don't want to put my life up there every day. Well, then put your dog on there. Put your, maybe you're growing a garden in your backyard. Show your followers what you're working on. Maybe it's just quick clips that you can pull from some of your scenes you've done recently, as long as you have permission to use them, of course. It could be just a fun boomerang or a GIF on a clean background. It could be text, just inspiring and motivating. It could be relevant and topical things happening in politics or the industry right now, and you're just reposting. You could be celebrating the life of someone who recently passed. There's a lot of things that you can do on stories. So staying relevant and active on stories will make a big difference. I won't get too much into the specifics here, but still photos, video up to 15 seconds, boomerangs, AR filters. So that's actually Instagram's response to Snapchat. They saw Snapchat gaining some traction about a year and a half ago or so, and created stories. And stories came out because Snapchat was starting to get some traction with younger age demographics. And now AR filters, which are like, the puppy dog face with the tongue and everything, and the animations and all of that, all became a part of Instagram stories to compete with Snapchat, because Snapchat wouldn't sell to Instagram and Facebook. So again, just some fun insight into the behind the curtain there. It's great for audience engagement and great for building a relationship. So stories are pretty simple. I would suggest starting those if you don't already today, and try to get one out every single day that you're on Instagram. That will make a big difference for retention. Next, we can talk about highlights. So stories can be categorically put into highlights that are visual bubbles on the profile. We had a couple of questions about what are these icons that I keep seeing on people's profiles. Not so much an advanced thing to talk about here today, but highlights are those just the bubbles that are graphically designed or visual categorical icons that are folders of story content. So stories stay up for 24 hours, highlights stay up forever. You can put 100 stories into a highlight. You can have 100 highlights on a profile. So it is a great place to categorize what you're doing every day and make sure it stays on the profile. I would consider this business casual. Stories are casual, highlights are business casual, posts are formal pieces of content. So graphically designing or picking a great image for the cover is really important. Categorizing them by writing copy or text that basically denotes the different folders. Think of them like folders of your content. That's a great way to build an aesthetic for the profile. So that's highlights. Now let's talk about posts. So formal posts on your page can be a couple of different aspect ratios: landscape, square, portrait. Just keep in mind when you're posting and taking this more seriously, Instagram will automatically crop to 1:1 on your feed. The overall aesthetic of your feed, the color aesthetic for your feed has to look cohesive if you're really taking this seriously from a brand collaboration standpoint. If this isn't so much for brand collaboration, or maybe that's not for you, it does help to subconsciously, like I said, communicate to casting in the industry that you take this seriously and it's an art form. For myself, I find my social media to be an art form. And I put it out there for other people, but I also enjoy the way that it looks at the end of the day. So the landscape mode will automatically crop into square, portrait will automatically crop down to square, and then videos is 1.91:1 or 4:5. So just keep that in mind as you're shooting this 1080 by 608 pixels, and you can have up to 1 minute as an Instagram post. So you can have a still photo as the cover. The best way to do that is to use something like iMovie, for example. Really simple. Drag and drop a still image from your desktop, make it a millisecond before the video, post the video to Instagram, select that as the thumbnail. Boom, now you've got a visual grid for your Instagram so that the video doesn't go out as a black square. That's something I see pretty often. Again, not as advanced of a tactic, but just good to note that that makes a big difference, the visual of the profile. I don't want to hit post too much. You all know how to post, hopefully by this point. So let's move on to IGTV, some of the differences there with IGTV. So IGTV, as you saw, is a different section of the profile. It's the newest feature for Instagram, and it's up to 60 minutes of video. You have a 15-second preview. You have up to 1 minute that you can post as just a post, but if it goes longer than a minute, it's automatically going to be IGTV. You can upload 15 minutes from mobile, up to 60 minutes from desktop. Again, highly recommend this. Instagram's algorithm is pushing this. It is a place for you to grow a following and to grow your engagement, grow your audience. And the more you do it, the more you build it, the more that people are going to be interested and engaged. The second half of IGTV on the next slide is just the aspect ratios, the formats and size. When you're posting a long video, post from desktop. You can post to IGTV from your desktop computer, your Mac, your laptop, your whatever it is. Make sure it's MP4 only. You want to put the preview in, the cover image, you have a title. It will walk you through all of that. We don't need to hit that with our time here today. But basically 10 minutes is maximum 650 MB, 60 minutes is 3.6 gigabytes, and it's a minimum 30 frames per second. So just keep all of that in mind when you're doing it. Instagram will automatically down-res any video you put in there. So if it's a 4K video, you're not going to see 4K on your phone. So when you upload the video, you'll see that. All of that will be covered when you use IGTV. All of this is just to say, try it out, create a cover, use, put the title in the safe space in the center. And just for the sake of time, if you want to screenshot this or come back to it later, this is a good guide for you as far as aspect ratios for creating covers and posting IGTV. Now, let's talk about Reels. So Instagram Reels is the newest feature on Instagram as far as content being posted. It's direct response, Instagram, to TikTok. TikTok rapidly took off and got a lot of interest and excitement from the industry. And so Instagram created Reels, which is basically exactly the same as TikTok. The only difference is the way in which the algorithm showcases the content. But if you go to your Discover page right now on Instagram, you'll see that Reels takes up a huge amount of the real estate on your Discover page because Instagram is promoting it. So you kind of get the trend here. As Instagram is looking at certain parts of the platform, that's where you really dig in deeper and you take a look at, create content for that aspect of the platform, because Instagram will help actually promote that type of content because it works and aligns with what Instagram is promoting at that time. So basically, if you can't beat them, join them. You stand next to a waterfall, you're going to get wet. That's the idea here with Instagram. If they're moving in this direction, take the cue, and if you feel comfortable doing it, move in the direction with them. I would just advise testing it. We have a great presentation on Reels that hopefully, in the future, I'd love to do for SAG-AFTRA and this group here. That is just specifically on Reels and how do you create Reels? How do you optimize them? How do you loop Reels? How is Reels different than TikTok? What are the pros and cons of both? Things that you could foresee happening in the Reels future. I think Reels is here to stay. I think TikTok may or may not be. So we'll see what happens in the coming weeks with TikTok, but Instagram Reels is a part of the platform now and has gotten some traction. They also are going to major creators to create Reels, and it has made a difference for our clients in being able to capture, generate, and retain an audience. So Reels, there's not a ton that we can get into just in this session here today. I would just advise, try it out. You may not even have it on your phone yet, which is why it's a little bit early to jump into Reels full-fledged. Some people don't have it on their devices yet, but if you do have it and you have the ability to create Reels, give it a try, see what it feels like. You can either post it to your feed or elect not to post it to your feed. It's kind of like IGTV in that way. You can have a preview on your feed or not. So best place to start is not putting it as a preview on your feed so that your feed stays great, but the reel still goes up and you can test how that performs and monitor the analytics and back-end insights for those posts. So next slide here is around editing. For all of these various aspects of the platform, editing is going to make a big difference. So we're a little bit biased, not gonna lie. We do work with Adobe and Apple, and some of these apps are Adobe or other apps that are created by some of our partners. But who doesn't know Lightroom and Photoshop? Those are just key components of the editing industry. Very important and great apps, also free. All of these apps are free. I'm not going to hit editing too much here today because that's, again, not such an advanced tactic. I want to make sure we get to everything. in the next 10 minutes or so. But Lightroom and Photoshop and Facetune are my main go-to apps, and the ones that I like to go to on my phone to actually edit content mobily, remotely, and using just my finger, like finger painting, to edit some of the pieces of content that I do. Content is going to be a huge component in becoming influential on the platform, building an audience. It is what distinguishes a great profile from a not so great. Quality content can be the story, the composition, the lighting, the editing. It can be the facial expressions. It can be the people in the photo. It can be a video, the content of the video. It can be how it's cropped. There's so much that goes into creating a quality piece of content, but these apps will help you do it mobilely, remotely, and cheaply, so you don't have to spend a lot of money on a video editor to make your content look great. So I'm going to give you some examples of that. On the next slide, you'll see one of our clients here. He's an awesome producer. His name is Shad, and he's given us permission to use this image. I took this picture here in LA, wanted to show that he is a producer filming in LA, but a big thing about this was he really wanted to show he was in Hollywood. You know, the big goal here was being in Hollywood with this image. So we sat down and did a really crude edit, really quick and fast edit, and ended up with this next picture. So if you've ever been to the Hollywood sign, you know that this is physically impossible. This doesn't exist. There's no place in front of the Hollywood sign like that. However, for someone who is outside of California, this now has become a very, it has a higher chance of becoming a viral piece of content. And this is just simple Photoshop and a blur tool. Keep in mind, you're looking at this on your computer right now. You might be looking on your phone, but it is a very small piece of content when you are on Instagram looking at this photo. There's almost no way anyone's going to see some of the editing mistakes we made here. And by no means is this perfect. All of you will be better than this after a week of using those apps and getting used to those apps. But it just shows you what's possible. It can really make a big difference. To this day, he's grown over 30,000 followers or more now, I believe. To this day, it is still one of the best performing posts on his profile. Got the highest reach and impressions even early on the page, because you look at it and it immediately tells a story. Great composition, good lighting, nice color, good facial expression, nice background, and he's in Hollywood producing, notice of filming. It all comes together there. The next series of photos I want to show you, 3 pictures that I've taken. Well, the middle one I didn't take because I'm in it. And it's some editing tools that are a little more advanced that you might hit yourself because of shooting indoors. You might get some yellow photos or some yellow tint. When you're outside and you're coming up with a color aesthetic for your profile, a cohesive color aesthetic that comes together. Mine, for example, at the time was orange. So the left photo may have worked, but the middle photo doesn't really. All the leaves are red. And then on the right, it was such a cloudy day, but that place itself was so beautiful. So I wanted to change out the sky, which is actually what QuickShot is used for. So if you're going back to the apps watching this later, QuickShot will help you replace the sky, which is pretty amazing. Obviously, do this all within, what seems reasonable. But you'll see here on the next slide we switch to, the left side, I took out the yellows. I made the statue white the way that it was when you had seen it. That's all with Lightroom. Middle shot was also with Lightroom. It was a selection tool. I turned it from red to orange so that it matched my profile. And if we can go back, I'll show you on the right image something fun that I had done. The fountain wasn't actually on that day. So I just put the fountain in there. That's Photoshop Mix. I found the picture of the palace online, dragged and dropped it over, copied it in with my finger, and put the fountain in the photo. So post-production editing and still imagery is actually a lot easier than you think it is. If you haven't used these apps before, I highly recommend giving them a shot. They will make a huge difference for your profile and increase your engagement, which then tells Instagram your profile is more viral, which then allows them to show it to more people. More people see it, the higher engagement you get, which then shows it to more people, so on and so forth, and the algorithm starts to roll, and next thing you know, you have a viral post. You have 50,000 people have seen that content, and then now 5% of them have followed you. Those kind of things happen every day on the platform. They can't happen if you're not taking your content seriously. So these are just some examples in the travel space. The same thing applies to whatever your brand points are. If you're sitting at home right now thinking, yeah, I get it, Ryan, but what do I post about? Go watch Ben's part 1. He talks about brands, branding and branding and social media, what you're posting about, the different types of content you can post, how to think about what you should be posting about. All of that is in part 1. But once you've solidified on your brand points, the 3 of them, this is how you take it from good to great. All right, now in the last couple of minutes we have here, I want to get into the bulk of this, which is, well, bulk of the tips and tricks that are kind of my secret sauce, which is influencer cross-marketing and brand collaborations. We've never actually recorded this part of the session before, so this is exciting because I want to make sure you all have this information, and anyone who's watching this later, I'm opening the floodgates in a sense. So hopefully it doesn't flood these different various marketplaces, but here we go. So influencer cross-marketing is the fastest way to grow. Ben talked about that in part 1, but collaboration with a celebrity, a known figure, someone with a higher following base is actually how TSMA grows our clients' accounts. We do collaborations every month to make sure that our clients that have larger followers are getting paid. Our clients who have a smaller following are getting followers from the client with larger followings. They work together, we do a photo shoot, we do a giveaway, whatever it is, and we drive traffic. We incentivize traffic. That's the best way to grow. It's within the community guidelines, it's within the terms of service. It's the fastest way to grow an account. We have some accounts that we grow 8, 9, 10,000 followers a month through this process. So it's definitely doable. Hard to pull off yourself unless you have a friend who has a large following. I just want to show you an example of how this could look as far as photos together, tagging each other. I'm sure you've seen this on Instagram. It is a tactic. It looks organic, but it is something that is done intentionally to drive traffic to pages that should have bigger followings, but just aren't having the opportunity of being seen. Instagram recognizes the traffic, flags it, make sure that that profile gets more views moving forward, and next thing you know, you're an influencer as well, or you have an influential profile or a large follower base as well. So that's a question we get often is how do you grow your following? Influencer cross-marketing is going to be the best way to do it. That also works with brands. If Nike tags you, you're going to grow followers. If you do a partnership with Jamba Juice and they tag you, your following is going to go up from that. Do it organically. Don't buy followers. Don't use automation. Don't use bots or fake followers. None of that works for your career, I promise. They will flag those things in the room and they will know that they're not real. If they're paying you because of your social media or that's even a factor, trust me, they take it seriously. It's the same way they watch your audition tape and your self-tape, your EcoCast, whatever it is, and say, is this the person for the job? And they consider 50 different factors when they're looking at that. Your social media is a component of it. Please don't buy followers. If you already have, reach out to me on DM. I'll happily help you out. There's some apps and ways you can purge those accounts and clean it up and grow the right way. So the next slide is our last one, but it is also what I find to be the next step for many of you. So once you have great content, you've optimized your profile, you know the algorithm, you're creating reels, you're creating stills, you're creating content for IGTV, you're putting posts out regularly, you're active on the platform, you're engaging with other people, you've selected your brand points, I mean, a lot of different things. Now you can take it to the next level by actually looking at brand collaborations. So some of these brands, well, these are just some of the brands that I've worked with personally. I am not a huge influencer. I have over 30,000, which is enough to do partnerships. Over 10,000 is enough. But I haven't put a ton of effort into growing that number. TSMA has almost 100,000, but my personal presence hasn't been a focus, although I use that as an example of having micro influence level of growth that can still do humongous brand collaborations with very lucrative partnerships with brands. All of my brand collaborations are still imagery. If you do a video or you're requested to do a video, it's a commercial. If you do a video, you're requested to do a video, it's a commercial. You are a SAG-AFTRA performer, please reach out to someone who's a staff at SAG-AFTRA to figure out how to best navigate that. Shane Griffin is amazing. She's helped with a lot of our navigation of this. She's also been involved with her classes with Apple and otherwise from SAG-AFTRA. Anyone who's on this today that introduced themselves, fantastic resources for you. Turning a digital ad into a SAG-AFTRA contract is not that hard, and you definitely should to protect yourself. Otherwise, they could take it and turn it into a real commercial, and next thing you know, not only are you in violation of Global Rule 1, but they've used your likeness for maybe $500 online. So please just, word of caution there, be careful when you navigate this space. This is my secret sauce here, these 4 things. There are 4 platforms that you can submit yourself for social media partnerships to actually generate a revenue stream for yourself that is legitimately a viable and reasonable and actual place to do so. The first is Popular Pays. Popular Pays is an app. You should download it right now. It's free. You sync your Instagram. I believe you have to have more than 10,000 followers. So again, work on that first. If you're not there yet, work on that first. Reach out to me. I have some other tips we can help out, but Popular Pays is 10,000 plus. But once you're at that point, it will open up an entire list of breakdowns for brand collaboration, usually print or still images, which is not covered by a SAG-AFTRA contract, which means it's fine. But there are some that are video. There are some that are SAG-AFTRA. McDonald's had, I believe, a SAG-AFTRA contract on there and some others. So looking through those breakdowns, you can actually bid or set a price for your rate in the influencer space. Popular Pays is probably a third of my collaborations. I got Isopure Irish Springs, if you can believe it, which is actually the second from the bottom right photo there was my Irish Springs shot. I got a couple of others through Popular Pays. Significant brands, like Epic was through there. Harimari was a sandal company through Popular Pays. Legitimate businesses, large companies, good budgets, great posts, professional, until Instagram or some other platform like Casting Networks figures out how to actually secure and lock in brand collaboration for influencers as a viable part of their platform. Popular Pays is my favorite. So download that now. I usually don't make this public. I actually have never said this on a class before because I don't want 1 million people on Popular Pays bidding against me for the various jobs, but I deeply care about this community. I want you all to have success. We are all in this together. This is a tough time right now for everyone. Popular Pays might be the difference. I know it has been for a couple of people that I know. As far as getting amazing collaborations, doTERRA and others, I mean, it's been awesome. So Popular Pays. Number 2, direct emails submission. Finding the brands that you love every day, whether it's, I like this coffee brand, or it is the phone case that you use, or it's Simply Gum, which was a partnership I did. You look at the various different products and you say, if I'm spending money on this, I could probably do a partnership with these companies. And you reach out. I was walking by a Jamba Juice. Oh, excuse me. Jamba Juice reached out to me, but I happened to be at a Jamba Juice or near one when it happened. And I locked in the collaboration and got shots right away. I'm trying to look at these examples here. Celebrity Cruises is a cruise line pre-pandemic I used to take all the time with my family. And I realized, well, why don't I just reach out to them and see what we can do? And if they'd be interested. That was a huge multi-$1,000 collaboration on social media. It's this third photo from the left on the bottom was all they needed. That was the entire collaboration, was that photo in one of their new rooms on their Celebrity Cruise Line Edge, the new ship. That's it. I would have posted that no matter what. It was a free cruise. It was a paid opportunity. It was a suite that they put us. It was, I mean, crazy. There was a Malala was on that ship to do a send off of Celebrity Cruise Line. The craziest stuff can happen when you just start sending emails. So I sent 50 emails and got 35 yeses in my first couple of months of doing this. It is really crazy. Go to their website, find the press and PR contact, send them an email that's very genuine, that shows you care, that you want to give back to the brand, show the content you're capable of creating, talk about your acting career, and see what they come up with. That's the best way to do it. That's a really great way. It takes more time than Popular Pays, but if you come with great ideas, it's very unlikely they'll say no flat out. So that's the next one. I know we're a little over on my section here, but this is so, so important. 4 is the next section, or is the next opportunity. Sign up for 4. 4.com, I believe, is their website. Opportunities randomly will come to you through there every once in a while. You don't even have to submit. They do it for you. Brands are on the platform. They'll look at your profile and say, yep, that's a fit. And you might just get a direct booking from 4. I've had that happen a few times. And then the final is Instagram. Instagram is developing a component in their platform. This is all new information that will be an influencer marketing part of Instagram. So they are developing in-house an actual booking platform for influencers. This is humongous. The influencer collaboration space is multi-billion dollars. I mean, it is a huge market. Instagram said, well, we don't really want people making money off of our platform, and we're not seeing any of it. So why don't we just build that into Instagram? Because of the pandemic, it got delayed. It was going to be out now as we're speaking, but because of the pandemic, they created Facebook Shops, which is a different class for conversion and ROI and KPIs for businesses, totally different. But Instagram created Facebook Shops, and then they created Reels. And Instagram Reels was because of TikTok. So they had to prioritize the things that were coming out. But before that, they were thinking about this first and foremost. So you can actually, in the future, go into Instagram and submit yourself to brand collaborations with all of the hundreds of thousands, millions of companies that are on Instagram that will automatically, innately be in the platform looking for talent. Instagram takes a small cut and make sure that basically they can facilitate this part of the platform. It will probably come from the brand. I mean, it will come from the brand side, so you don't have to worry about it. And there will be an entire marketplace of new opportunities. This will be incredible for all of you performers. This will be incredible for SAG-AFTRA. There'll be more work than we've ever had before, because Instagram is going to find a way to take that ad revenue that people are already spending on their companies and also allow them to spend money on influencer collaboration. So you as an influencer on the platform are directly and perfectly set in a position where you can capitalize on this new development in the industry and potentially find some revenue streams for yourself. So that is coming soon. I'm Wood here. I'm excited about that, if you can't tell. I think it'll be a really huge development for people, but it doesn't work if you don't have a profile that represents the quality of your work as a performer. If your profile is, okay. If you sign into a casting with your Instagram, which they're starting to ask now, and you put it on that sheet and you feel guilty that it's not as good as it should be, that should be a sign it's time to work on it. It is something you can do while you're waiting for your phone to ring. It is something that you can outsource. That's what our company does. I'm not promoting it, but just, there's other companies out there that do that. So you don't have to do it yourself if you don't love it. But brand collaboration, I personally feel, this isn't a SAG-AFTRA opinion, I personally feel will be a major part of the future revenue streams for all of us as performers, because everything is shifting to digital. SVOD, digital. I mean, every company is thinking of how can we create a subscription service for content creation. Movie theaters aren't open. All of that's going subscription. I mean, it is unbelievable how things are changing to digital right now. So of course, it makes sense as a performer to adjust your strategies and consider digital as a big part of how you're actually going to get found in this industry. It is a renaissance right now for social media. This is the time to get it going. And you're not too late. If you're just starting and this is way over your head today, totally respect that. Watch part 1, but also you're not too late. There is an audience for every single person watching this. Every person on here will be able to build an audience and do brand collaboration and partnerships. I have seen it firsthand. We have clients that are in their late 70s that have over 200,000 followers and are verified. They started at almost nothing. We have clients legitimately that are 2 to 10 years old, and they're booking more commercials than I have ever gone out for. And they have tens of thousands of followers on social media. Thoughts aside about little kids having social media presences, it is an incredible time right now where this is becoming a really important part of our industry. So those are my tips and tricks. We could go into this for a lot longer. I know there's some questions on things like this, so we can make sure we hit that. But popular pays, direct emailing, going through and going through future of Instagram's platform are going to be the best and most professional way to book collaborations for yourself. And it's so much easier than you think. And I bet you if you send 50 emails and just put the elbow grease and work in and just do it, you will get responses. You will get feedback that will help you build your presence, and you will book some of these that will build a revenue stream for yourself. Again, not only because this is a SAG-AFTRA class, I always say this, protect your union. If it's something that should be union, bring it to SAG-AFTRA. It should be. Just, there's a reason why SAG-AFTRA is here. It protects all of us as performers, protects our presence, it protects our likeness. It's so important. There's legality. You don't have possibly the budget to pay your own lawyer to take care of these contracts. All of that is done. So if it's a video, it's probably union. It is union. If it's a still image, you're fine. So most of mine are still images just because I haven't had the opportunity to shoot a video, and it's not really my thing on Instagram, but a lot of people it is. So that is my secret sauce of brand collaboration. Please, if you submit yourself, make us all look good. Hold SAG-AFTRA, know that you're one of the best out there as a performer is concerned. And when you submit, please just put some care and thought into it. We don't want to bog these platforms down and destroy them. That is it.
That was so much fun. Now I'm going to see you hopefully on the big screen here in a second. There we go. Great. So we have had a ton of questions come in because this just, it gets people thinking about all these different things. We had some questions about, you mentioned cleaning up your online presence, and are there apps to do that, tools? Are there any kind of tips around that? And that some people just wanted to even think about, what does that even mean? If you could go a little deeper, that'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. So your presence, your reputation, your online digital reputation is something that you definitely should take seriously and consider. Every once in a while, just take a look at well, not only those commenting on your profile and direct messaging you, but take a look at, your Google search. You can turn on Google Alerts if you're on a series or you're on a project to monitor all of that. In order basically to clean those things up, you are most likely going to have to employ the services of a PR firm or some kind of reputation management firm if that's something that is a necessary thing for you right now. If there's not a lot out there right now that you need to clean up and it's just general monitoring, you can do it yourself. There's a lot of apps or a lot of programs like, let me think, like Buffer, for example, is a great app to monitor your analytics and backend and some of your insights and whatnot, things that are happening online. Sprout Social, I think, is the one that I was thinking of, is a great social listening tool that you can use to monitor all of that. Many PR firms have social listening tools for publicity and articles that are coming out. That's how they monitor when things are happening for you. Those can get expensive, so I don't have many recommendations that are not super pricey. But in general, using some of those apps is helpful. The best way to do it is to just do some searches yourself and manage your content yourself. Look at the comments on your posts previous before you post the next one. That's what I recommend until you get to the point where you should and need to hire and outsource some of these things.
Yeah, so we had questions also on, you mentioned different algorithms. People are curious, like in terms of the best practices, timing, other things like that for the various platforms. Could you go just a little bit deeper into that? We had a lot of people wanting to get that sense of it.
Yeah, absolutely. So the strongest algorithm, the most powerful, is Facebook, Instagram. It's actually advertising wise, there's an algorithm behind what content you see for an ad on the side of your screen or with pixels through Facebook, basically tracking your actions, which is outside of this conversation today. But on the personal side of things, as far as algorithmic utilization, Instagram prioritizes content that is posted consistently, that is of a quality level that generates engagement, that has high impressions and reach, that has high viewership, meaning that they're viewing a lot of the video, the majority of the video, that many people are viewing it, and how long they're looking at a photo. Are they saving the image? Are they commenting? How long are the comments? Are they using emojis? So much that goes into that algorithm. Don't let that bother you very much. Don't think about it too much. You'll get way bogged down in the day-to-day of the algorithm changes and API changes. I would just focus on creating really great content that resonates with you, writing good copy, using hashtags effectively and appropriately, which Ben talks about a little bit more in part one. I can get into that as well if there's questions on it. And just making sure that your presence is aesthetically cohesive and pleasing and edited and well done. Instagram's algorithm will take care of the rest. Really, really fast. YouTube's algorithm is basically just, you post great content, and if it has some good meta tags below it, it could show up potentially. It's not very powerful as far as optimizing content. TikTok is totally unique. You post a video on TikTok, you might go viral on one post and never do it again. And it's because TikTok will just show the most trending challenges and trending pieces of content. Snapchat is really meant for connection with your relationships and direct, sending messages to your friends and people you know. I wouldn't really worry about building a following there for so much. Twitter, if you put quality content out, you'll eventually build a follower base. There's ways to do that, like through giveaways and incentivization on Twitter, tagging people, retweeting, things like that. That just being active is the key there. Instagram has the algorithm that you can really manipulate in a sense and work with. And that's also why we focus on it in this class here today.
Great. People wanted to know your thoughts on pre-scheduling and using tools to pre-schedule like Hootsuite or other programs. Mm-hmm. Do you think that's helpful? Does that have is there a preference around that? Does it really help you boost because now you're posting more regularly because you can pre-plan? What are your thoughts?
My feeling has always been, if you create this beautiful package and you work very hard on the content, you do the photo shoot, you edit it, you bring a photographer or you pay a friend or you do it with a friend, whatever it is, and you really craft this content, you write your caption, your hashtags, you do it, I believe you should hand deliver it. That's just my personal preference. I think that if it's your only account, you should just hand deliver the content, meaning post it yourself through the platform natively and organically, because you'll be able to monitor engagement immediately. You'll be able to make sure that content is exactly what you want it to be, exactly when it goes out. You can make sure it's topical and relevant. I've seen issues with using Buffer, Hootsuite, Later, Loomly, Hey Orca. I mean, there's so many different platforms. There's issues not with the platform because they're Instagram partners, so you don't have a problem there algorithmically, but using the platform to post something like a smiling selfie, for example, and then let's say Chadwick Boseman passes away. And that's all of the content you see on social media, which, rest in peace, and has been a big movement on social media, which I love. And I love monitoring these various different outreach that people have and prayers and whatnot. But something like that topical happening, or there's a fire in California, for example, and then Buffer or Hootsuite automatically posts a selfie shot of you smiling with a caption that says "Beautiful Sunday," it seems very tone deaf. And you may not have the time or energy or thought to go in and change your calendar. So I feel if it's just your presence, it's so important, you might as well hand deliver the content. If you're managing a business, you're a photographer, you have multiple accounts, then it makes sense. Then you're going to have to. You're either going to have to hire someone or you're going to have to use a scheduling software because it's going to be overwhelming. Like, SAG-AFTRA, for example, we worked together to think about different solutions for posting scheduling software, and the staff like Tiffany and others that are running the social media accounts. That is an important part of managing a corporation or business, a union, or a large group. For an individual, I would just suggest doing it yourself, unless you're overwhelmed. And in that case, it could be helpful.
Gotcha. So there were questions about, if you're not a huge star and you are just sort of taking this a little bit at a time, what is your best advice to just get started today? They've taken the workshop that Ben gave. They feel proficient. This is the next step for them. What's the first step? What do they do right now? What would be the first thing you'd tell people to do, showcase, focus on immediately after this?
Love that question. Compile and create content. So the first thing to do, the biggest hurdle you're going to hit in this is you're going to run out of content if you're just starting. So the best thing you can do is create as much as you possibly can. Look at archival content, throwback photos, stills from behind the scenes or behind the scenes photos, or stills from your projects, your headshots. Look at your reel, look at your lifestyle and commercial print content, any print content you have in general, collaborations you've done with other people and businesses. Compile all of that and start doing additional photo shoots, start doing additional video shoots, write scripts, write content, go out and shoot it. Just make a ton of content, because if you have that backlog, you will be motivated to get it out. If you don't have the backlog, it's a really hard, not learning curve, but there's a lot of inertia there to get that going. Once you start doing that, you will be on a roll. The reason people stop posting is because they run out of content. That's really the only way. It's not because we don't care. It's not because people don't know it's important. It's because we just run out of content. There's nothing good enough to post. So if you backlog it, you'll be in a good spot. That's the first thing you should do.
That's great. Everybody's asking about being verified. And can you talk about that? What's the best way to have that happen? How does it vary from platform to platform?
Yes, absolutely. Instagram verification, just because we've been talking about that primarily, goes through a press portal at Facebook. So there is a team specifically dedicated to verification of global businesses or wildly influential individuals, people who are thought leaders, industry leaders, celebrities, known public figures. Do not be frustrated if you haven't been verified. It doesn't mean that you're not significant or that you haven't done enough work. It just means that Instagram's code hasn't recognized or flagged your account as someone that does have the chance to have impersonators, other accounts that are fan accounts that could make your account confusing, that the account potentially doesn't have the level of influence that denotes someone of note. Now, I've said this a lot. Many people have said, look, my friend is verified. He's not even on a show, and I've been on a show for 3 years and I'm not verified. Instagram has changed their policies around verification over the years. So it used to be a lot easier. There was a much more open, application process, and now it has gotten tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter. I think that they believe that they verified most of the people that have been on the platform. I don't think that's correct. Many of you should be verified and are not, and a lot of our clients should be verified and are not. The best way to do it is submission through a PR firm, social media firm, or otherwise, because they have a direct relationship. Otherwise, you can submit yourself through the platform. I have never seen that work. So I just want to make sure we denote that. I've never, ever seen someone submit through the platform and have that actually connect and work. So that's just a note. The other option is to just keep working on your craft, keep working on your booking, keep working on your social presence, and eventually you get flagged. That's the answer for all of the other platforms. You get verified on Instagram, you get verified on Facebook. Twitter's a lot easier to get verified. You can submit right through Twitter. I've seen people get verified on Twitter and never on Instagram. So that just submit through the platform on Twitter. If we're talking some of the other platforms, and those are really the ones that make sense to be verified. So yeah, I would say that is the way to go about it.
Thank you. We had questions in terms of like balancing your time. I think people find that especially during the pandemic, Ryan, you know, everybody's, you know, new schedules, lots of things going on, Zoom all day, or all the things that we're trying to balance. How much time for just somebody that's sort of doing this on their own, what is the amount of time that somebody should be spending each day on this, do you think, from your just having seen so many people do it?
Yes, I would say, and this may be contradictory to everything you've heard so far because it seems like so much, I would say an hour a day. And here's how I justify that. So the hour would go into creating content. So, you know, let's say it takes 2.5 hours one day, but then the next day it takes 20 minutes to post. You're averaging out to about an hour there. So you're creating content, editing the content, which shouldn't take a lot of time. It looks like a lot, but it shouldn't. Editing the content, writing captions, and putting the post out. That is the core of it. The story, putting a story up that day, maybe 10 minutes. Outbound engagement, so actively commenting on other people's accounts and using the platform, 20, 30 minutes a day maybe. So if you really average it out over the course of a 7-day week, it should be about an hour a day. But when you first get started, there is a learning curve. So don't be frustrated if it's taking you 2 to 3 hours to figure out how to put an IGTV video up. If you can't figure out how to do a cover, if you're downloading iMovie or something and it's just taking time, that's because there's a learning process. But once you're in the groove, I don't spend, you know, when I was posting every day, I spent about 40 minutes a day, probably, I would say. When I do a brand collaboration, it takes a couple hours, but you're getting paid to do it, so it's a little different.
People want to talk about if they should boost their posts. Do you have strategies around that, advertising budgets, any kind of targeting how-tos that you want to go over?
If you own a business, you definitely should be advertising in some way, just because there's a lot of power in advertising, specifically through stories. Through TikTok is a great low-cost advertising platform. There is a $300 credit and a match of ad spend on TikTok up to $2,000 right now. So that is a good tip for everyone. If you want to advertise anything, go through TikTok first. They're trying to save their behinds right now, and why not? They still have hundreds of millions of people on the platform, so let's go in and, you know, help them do that by also making $2,300 of free ad spend. So that would be my suggestion. If you own a business, you have something to sell. If you have an album that's coming out, a movie that you've created, if you're doing a crowdfunding campaign, whatever it is, then yes. If you are an individual and you don't need to promote anything, then no. I would say organic content creation and posting makes the most sense. You know, you saw some of my pictures. Imagine if I boosted a picture of me with some leaves around me and someone saw it and it says sponsored or paid post. It'd be really odd. Like, why is Ryan trying to pay to get more people to follow him? So it's a strange, like, psychological thing. But as an individual, we don't boost any of our individual clients' pages. I've never boosted my content, but TSMA boosts it all the time because it's like there's services and seminars and things that make sense. So for most of you, I wouldn't recommend spending your money in that way. Focus on content.
Right. So if somebody had a jewelry business on the side or something like that, they might then want to do something like that. That exactly. Helps. A lot of us are multi hyphenates in so many different ways. Absolutely. So there was a question that I thought was really interesting from somebody. Let's say you're in an ensemble project. You're on a show, and you might get coordinated posts with the show, or maybe you're doing a theater production, some sort of ensemble. Do you have strategies about how that should be rolled out, how you should coordinate? Are there things that you think about in those kind of situations?
Yes. Oftentimes I take the lead in a situation like that because what you'll find is the majority of people, even celebrities, don't understand the platform. It's a lot of time. There's a lot of energy that goes into this. Now that you've sat through this presentation, hopefully the first one as well, you will be more knowledgeable than the majority of your co-stars in any project that you work on. It's just the way it is. The industry, it's a little slow to catch up to all of these things that are happening because they're happening so fast. Instagram's unbelievable with these updates. So now that you have the know-how, I would suggest taking the lead on it and coordinating with your ensemble. So that means working with your co-stars, your cast, whatever it is, saying, hey guys, we should do a shot together right now with the BTS photographer. Hey guys, we should all do a post about the show coming out at the same time and tag each other. And then tagging each other is really the key. If you get tagged, your followers will grow, most likely if they have a following. If you tag them, not really, but that helps them. So it's a mutual thing. So I would take the lead on it, coordinating via text or email or working with, friends in person, wear a mask, be safe. But if you're in person with people, just prompting, hey, we should post this is often what people need to go, oh, you're right. I totally forgot I should even be posting. Let's do it. Or let's put it on a story. Or let's put it on IGTV if it's a video. So those kind of things are great ways to start the conversation. Also, the network, the studio, the distributor, whomever is in charge, the exec producer will probably also take the lead on it because it's to their best benefit to capitalize on an audience and following. If it's Disney, they don't need that. If it's a smaller production company or Netflix or SVOD, for example, they might make it mandatory. They might put it in your contract. So chances are they'll be taken care of for you on bigger projects. But if it's smaller, work with your co-stars and come up with a campaign.
Yeah. We had a great question that just came in about how do you determine a rate for brand collaborations and you're starting out? What advice do you give there?
Thank you for that. I missed that on the brand partnership slide. Determining your rate is tough. It's like anything. What is your likeness worth? What is your time worth? And it's, you do a commercial for a day and with residuals or with, even prepayment, you're in an amazing financial gain for that day. Your hourly rate is ridiculous. For Instagram and for social media, it's a little different. The major component that's different is you're self-distributing the content. So it's a very complicated medium. Here are the things that are valuable. I'll start there, what you're doing. Number one, your likeness. You being in the content is valuable. Even if you're not a celebrity, you just, as a performer, as a SAG-AFTRA performer, your likeness is valuable. Number two, your content creation. That takes time, it takes energy, it takes editing, it takes all of that. Number three, your intellectual property. These are your assets. You're creating these things and you own them when you do the photo shoot. You are giving the brand rights and usage to use that content. And number four is distribution. You're distributing the content to your audience. You have an ingrained audience being an influencer. That is why you're being purchased or paid for, why the content's being purchased, is so that you can distribute it yourself. Those four things are super, super valuable. That's what SAG-AFTRA fights for every day. So keeping those in mind, I can't give you a general rate for everyone here. It's very hard to know. But keep those things in mind when you are bidding or when you're going out and talking to brands. They're going to come back and say, amazing, Ryan, we're so happy to work with you. Here's a year supply of Lucky Jack coffee. And I'm going to go, well, can't pay my rent with coffee. So instead, it would be amazing if we could, do some coffee so I could do the photo. But also, I would really like if you could pay me X, Y, Z, and then we could do this. What do you think about that? I'll do a story as well as a bonus. You start to negotiate. If you have an agent that knows this space, we work with a lot of agencies, help them build digital divisions, have them take it over. They'll know what to do. Often the brand will want to work with you though. So it's hard to say what your rate is. Some say 1% of, or 10% of your engagement. You get 5,000 likes, $500. I don't think that's realistic. I think that's very, very low for that's the industry standard, quote unquote, but that's for people in Arkansas who have never acted and are not union performers and don't create quality content. And they're just like, yeah, I'll make $500. I have a TikTok that went viral. That's what that's really standardized for. This is different. This is content that the brand will see and go, okay, this is quality, high level content that we would have spent $10,000 to shoot, develop, and get the rights to. So, maybe something in that ballpark.
Yeah. So I'll be just slayed by people if I don't ask you one of these questions. We got a lot of questions about hashtags and knowing when it's trending and how many do you use on each platform? When is it too many? And is there, advice that you have in terms of when it's a made up hashtag or where you're actually sort of tracking a conversation? People really want to hear that from you, Ryan.
Yes, hashtags are a big conversation. Hashtags are search engine optimization tools or meta tags that directly correlate to a singular and individual piece of content that then allows for a new audience that otherwise wouldn't have seen that content to find it for the first time. That's a lot. Basically, hashtags are pieces of our individual words or phrases with no spaces that will allow someone who is following that hashtag, searching that hashtag, or otherwise out there in Instagram, it's specific to Instagram, looking for content that has to do with that hashtag. It will help them find your content and will increase your engagement and your reach, usually about 10%. So over time, that compounds and can make a big difference. I've had some posts get 500 likes, 600 likes organically, and then 1,500 likes from hashtags. And you can see that in your insights, in your reach, basically. And it's because it just kind of went viral on that hashtag for whatever it is. You can use up to 30. When you optimize and format the hashtags, I advise putting them in a comment as opposed to in the caption. We've all seen the post that's like, beautiful 4th of July with my family, hashtag model, hashtag actor, hashtag actor life, hashtag model life, hashtag model by the pool, hashtag follow for follow. It just destroys it destroys the message. So putting it in the comment in a way that's formatted and optimized will really make a big difference. If you're looking for how to do that, I am Ryan Walker is my Instagram handle. I do it on every one of my posts. So you can go and check that out and see how I'm formatting it. Final thing on hashtags, when you're creating them and you're thinking of what to hashtag for a piece of content, just improv. So I'm going to do my best. I had a lot of this coffee today, but if this was the photo, just the coffee container, the hashtags could be hashtag coffee, hashtag black coffee, hashtag cold brew, hashtag espresso, hashtag espresso coffee, hashtag can of espresso coffee, hashtag lucky brew coffee, hashtag lucky jack coffee, hashtag coffee in LA, hashtag coffee addict, hashtag coffee man, hashtag men with coffee, hashtag Los Angeles with coffee. The idea with all of this is that you are diversifying the size of the hashtag. Not to get too technical, but hashtag coffee, massive. It's not going to trend. So, while the time we've been talking, 500 people have posted hashtag coffee. But how many people have hashtag men with coffee? Way less, but people might still be looking for that for some reason. So I'm diversifying the size and alternating. So basically improving. The more you do it, the better you'll get. And if you do that up to 30 hashtags, you will very likely hit an audience that will be interested. So just cast a net and see what sticks and get better with time.
I think, Ryan, you just did something that I would have thought was not possible. You actually just made the hashtags fun. So that was really great.
I'm glad.
Well, we've got one final question that came in multiple times. People have questions about IG posts versus stories, and would love to get your take on that. So could you talk just for a minute about that before we wrap up?
Absolutely. IG stories are casual content. So if you're thinking about this as a night out in the town, if you're dressing casual, that's a story. Very simple, casual, candid, the selfie kind of, hey guys, I'm here in LA and I'm doing a class with SAG-AFTRA, whatever it is, that's a story. Highlights are business casual. So it's a little bit more tailored. It's a little more fine-tuned. It's story content, but it's the best of. It's your highlight reel. That's why they're called highlights. So highlights of your stories, business casual. Your posts are formal. It's the best piece of content you can create. That includes IGTV. This is as high resolution as you can go, the best story, the really topical campaigns, the hey, I booked something post, the this is me in Forbes post, that's a post. So that's the formal content. That's the range and spectrum. Stories are meant to be very much candid, fun, lighthearted, easy, story like GIFs and emojis and text and colors and boomerangs. There's music, lyrics, you can do so much with stories. I wouldn't say put a story as a post because I've seen that happen a lot. Those are totally different mediums within the same platform. So just keep that in mind. There are distinct avenues that you can leverage and use that each of them has a different audience base. Your views on your story are going to be different than your views on a video on your post. And it's because it's the way Instagram shows that content is in different locations on the Discover page, different locations on people's feeds, and different when it comes to hashtags. You can also hashtag on stories, so keep that in mind. Not 30, it would be a lot, but a couple here and there will help them show up on hashtags.
Ryan, this is just terrific. It was a really wonderful presentation, a lot of fun. Fun with hashtags with Ryan Walker is what I hope
that's the next one.
For sure. And I just really want to thank you for taking out this time to be with us. I want to thank everybody who joined today. We had quite a lot of excitement around this. And I think it demystifies it for people because I know for some people this is also stressful. And If it cannot be stressful, it can be fun, all that kind of assistance. And I want to thank everybody who tuned in today. We've had people turning in for the President's Task Force on Education, Outreach, and Engagement live streams all throughout this pandemic. And we want to make sure that people have opportunities to learn, both for their professional career, their personal lives, all of this throughout. And today certainly did that in a fun way. So I just want to remind everybody that if you haven't already, not only do you need to subscribe to SAG-AFTRA's YouTube channel, but make sure that you are actually liking, following SAG-AFTRA on, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, everything, because it would be a real shame if you didn't take a minute after today's webinar to do that today for sure. And you can always come back and watch this again on YouTube, because there really was a lot. And for people that want to go back and catch the earlier part one, they can do that. But there was so much. We had so many questions today that I wish I could have gotten to all of them. They were a lot of fun. So thank you, Ryan. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Wishing everybody a very wonderful, safe, mask-wearing Labor Day weekend. We are union strong, and we are SAG-AFTRA. And with that, I'm going to say goodbye to everybody. Be safe and wear that mask. Okay. Bye-bye. Thanks, Ryan.